Leaders always think they're right. And unfortunately, a good amount of the time we're not. And we have to learn how to deal with it, work with that. Because I mean, as you probably well know, these young men and women that are coming into the workforce now, they're so smart. They know so much more than we did when we were their age. And being able to communicate with them and understand them is so important in any success of the business.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Would you say that you encourage your employees to think like entrepreneurs? Would you say you encourage them to own the projects that are in front of them? Would you say that you give them complete autonomy in the work that they're doing? Well, some of those things are all related. In fact, I think they're very closely related. Entrepreneur thinking, this feeling of ownership, and autonomy. You've heard me talk about a lot of them on the show today, but we wanted to go specifically to someone who's had some experience with this at a leadership level and really working with a fast growth company growing their business and their team really fast. So who is that? Well, it is Dr. Johnny Garcia. He is the founder of SimIS. They are a simulation company. They do a lot with data. He is actually the founder of other companies as well. We talk about the importance of team, the importance of communication, entrepreneur thinking, autonomy, and a lot of other elements and details about how he sees the team as they grow together, as they provide services not only to their customers, but also to their community. It's very philanthropic. Dr. Johnny Garcia really is someone I admire as a leader. So hopefully you'll enjoy this interview as much as I enjoyed recording it for you. Now, I want to pause here again because I keep mentioning this, and I know not many people are able to pull over their car and actually go get these principles. But I want to encourage you to take a mental note right now. If you want to grow fast, you want to understand the 12 principles that leaders know of fast growth companies and see where you stand. Those 12 principles I've organized into 3 small pages. You can digest this content in a amount of time it takes you to drink a cup of coffee. In 3 pages, you'll get those 12 principles. Just go to genehammett.com/principles, and you can download the 12 principles of fast growth companies. Again, that URL is genehammett.com/principles. Now back to the interview with Johnny. Dr. Garcia, how are you?
Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am fantastic. Excited to have you here on the show to talk about the leadership and culture that's made the company grow. So tell us just a little bit about SimIS.
SimIS is a modeling and simulation cybersecurity company established about 13 years ago into innovative approaches to doing business and modeling and simulation and cybersecurity.
When you think about your company, I know it's grown really fast, and the market you're in is a very interesting market with security. What are you most proud of as it relates to the company?
I'm most proud of the people that work for SimIS and what we've done in the community here in Hampton Roads, the 757. That's what I'm most proud of.
The people that you have there, you couldn't do this alone. So what is it about the people that you feel like has really made the biggest impact for growth of the company?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I think it ends with me. It starts with the key leaders I have in important parts of the business. Our CFO, Amber Horton, has been with me since the beginning, since we started the business. She's been very instrumental in helping me run the business. But then I have a number of directors in the right positions that are making sure our customers are happy, but also can't forget the employees that are doing the work to keeping the customers happy. And that's so important to a successful business, a growing business, is the people that are leaders in the business. And I give them all the credit for all of our success.
When you think about, taking people who are intelligent and talented and really getting the most out of them so that you build high performing teams. What are the key factors that you see most important?
Well, I mean, there's a number of factors, obviously, but probably the most important are communication skills. You can have a number of folks that are extremely intelligent, extremely smart, and have high degrees and did really well in school. But if they have low communication skills or no communication skills, it's going to be very hard for them to lead a team of individuals, especially highly educated individuals. And the majority of our employees at SimIS are all highly educated. So communication skills are so important.
I know that when I talk to most people, they think they have pretty good communication skills. Most people would probably rate themselves pretty high. But the reality is we all can't be above average. What do you think gets in the way of someone's communication skills when they think they're better than they actually are?
Well, I mean, I think you hit it, right on the head of the nail. Is leaders always think they're right, and unfortunately, a good amount of the time we're not, and we have to learn how to deal with it, work with that, because I mean, as you probably well know, these young men and women that are coming into the workforce now, they're so smart. They know so much more than we did when we were their age, and being able to communicate with them and understand them is so important in any success of a business. Millennials are very different than my generation. Their approach to work is very different, and their approach to being motivated is very different. And it's very much tied to how we communicate with them to get the best out of them. Majority of my workforce are millennials, and they're like I mentioned, they're a little bit different than the way I was raised in business. But what I found over the years is getting to understand what their buttons are and motivating them is extremely important. I've learned that. A number of leaders in my business have learned that, and that's what made us so very successful over the years.
Hold on for a second. Did you just catch that? Leaders think they are right. Well, we all think we're right to a degree. We all know that we have some understanding of what we're trying to do as employees and as leaders. And so for us to think we're right is common. But how do you, as a leader, engage others that think they're right to see a new perspective? Well, one of the ways is you slow things down a little bit. You begin to ask questions about what they really believe. Where did that come from? What backs that up? How are they grounding their idea of that truth? And when you begin to have these conversations, I would urge you to play with it a little bit. Actually ask them questions like, what would it take for you to see this a completely opposite way? And maybe laugh about it a little bit. Because that in itself, the question to look at it the opposite way, will get some energies flowing around that conversation. And hopefully you'll find different ways to see things, different perspectives. And your job as a leader sometimes is to get them to see other perspectives and not necessarily tell them what they're expected to see. Let them figure it out for themselves. This is hard and challenging. It's part of the job as a leader. Back to the interview with Dr. Garcia. I love this focus on communication. Is it something that you do through the values of the corporation, or is it just an overarching factor to how you operate as a team?
Yeah, well, so I was in the Navy. So my first real job was in the Navy, and everything in the Navy was about communication, chain of command, communication. Now, something different in business is there's no dictatorship in business. Not that the Navy is a dictatorship, but the chain of command is the chain of command. And typically in the military, you don't respond back to your superiors. I mean, you can in a certain way, but typically it is what it is. Well, in business, you can't do that. You have to be able to communicate, collaborate, and that leads to innovate. And we talk about innovation. these young men and women that are coming into the technology fields, like I mentioned, they're super, super smart. And you want to leverage that intelligence to build your business. And I think what we're doing in autonomy, in autonomous systems, is so key to the success of it, in leveraging these young men and women's talents to build something that's never been built before. And it's super exciting. Obviously, we have a number of PhDs. And if you ever work with PhDs, you know that they know everything. And typically they don't, but it's really hard to get them to say, well, I was wrong. But as these young men and women are coming into the fold in autonomy, these PhDs that have been doing it for 20, 30 years are realizing, wow, they do know what they're talking about. And we're going to build a better system because of that. And so that's so important to how we innovate, deliver technology today with the millennials. And not only that, I guess it's the Gen Yers, or I don't remember what their name is, the ones that are coming right out of college now. These kids are so smart. I mean, they've had a mobile device, they've had a computer in their hands since they were born. And everything that they do is tied to technology. And that's exciting to me in the technology business.
When you think about autonomy, a lot of companies, will say that autonomy is a very important piece to it. And what I really speak about is really letting someone think for themselves, solve these problems for themselves, and have full ownership of their areas. Is that in agreement with kind of the way you see autonomy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously there's a misnomer about autonomy, and this is just Johnny's opinion, is typically you will let someone not drown, but get close to drowning, and then you'll help them. And obviously for us in autonomy and in business, time is money. And I don't want to, have this conversation about money, but any successful business that says it's not about the money is incorrect. Because then they're not in business. They go out of business. So when you talk about the importance of autonomy in an engineering environment, like what we're doing, we have to ensure that what we're doing with our employees is safe first and foremost. But not only that it's good for the ROI of the business, because we're investing in that person to ensure what they're building is going to be what the customer wants delivered. And what we're building is very, very serious business, especially in our autonomous vehicles and our systems, because they're life and death decisions that are being used and made with these systems. So we want to give our young engineers enough rope, but enough rope to where we can save them in case they get too far, underwater or whatever we want to call it. But it's extremely important that we do that. But what we're learning, that these young men and women are very adaptive, and they run into problems. It's always good to fail. And the reason why it's always good to fail is because you're going to learn from those failures. And for me, I've learned more from my failures than I have from my successes. And I think that's extremely important, especially in autonomy, in an engineering world.
Hold on for a second. Did you happen to hear him talking about the importance of autonomy? Well, another way to look at that is empowerment. How do you truly empower your team members to have their own opinions? How do you empower them to make decisions, to fail, and then figure out how to pick themselves up and keep going and get the data from it, the learning elements of that failure? Empowerment and autonomy go hand in hand, and your job as a leader is to truly empower them to make those decisions. Because over time, you're not there to hold their hand. You're not there to review their work. You're not there to make sure it gets done. Hold them accountable. You want to make sure that they understand that they're completely empowered. They own their work. And that is the critical part of leadership that is often missing. Too often do we swoop in to fix things. Sometimes you have to let them own it. be completely autonomous to what's going on, self-sufficient, if you will. Back to the interview with Dr. Garcia. I love the fact that you say it's good to fail. So my next question is, Dr. Garcia, what is a mistake that you made or a failure that you made that really caused you to question your own leadership and caused you to play at a higher level?
Yeah. So great question. I don't know how long this interview is, but man, I read a number of self-help books. And one of the ones that I love is Steve Farber, Radical Leap. And he's wrote a number of them. But the first one, obviously, is LEAP, as an acronym in his book that talks about the love for what you do and the energy in what you do, everything that you do, and the love for the people that you do it for. And audaciousness is extremely, extremely important. Guess why? Because everybody else is trying to do what it is that you're doing. And if you're not different, if you're not, pushing the envelope, then you're just going to be like the other person. But P is by far the most important, and that's the proof. The proof in what you're doing every single day. It's not about what you do. It's not about what you say. It's about what you do. And that's where true leaders come in with that leap. But when you talk about failure, and I'm sure this is a rated G show, but it's the OSMs and what happens every single day that you learn so much from. And those are those oh shit moments where you're like, whoa, wait a minute. And you've made tremendous amounts of mistakes. But in order to be able to be successful, you have to take those OSMs, apply those OSMs to what you do every single day. Now, I've had a number of OSMs in my life, and so has everyone else. But the key to those OSMs is how do you go about it the next time that environment or that question or that type of a situation evolves itself, you reply to it. And in business, it's very simple. Don't do it again, especially if you failed the first time. And there is a number of reasons a person fails. And it isn't about education. Number of different, especially in business, there's so many environments. Being successful in business, you can't prepare for all of them. But in your response to each of the situations is how you succeed. And I think that's important in just about everything that you do, as far as failure, success, preparedness, and a number of different attributes that relate to those possibilities in business. I love what I do. I love the people that I do what I do for. So when I make important decisions, I think about how it's going to affect everybody as it relates to that decision in moving forward.
One question that's kind of on my mind here, when back to you were talking about autonomy, I find that leaders that have a need for employees to have autonomy and the employees actually want this and desire it, they really have embraced this entrepreneur thinking across the organization. Would you say that you want to encourage each individual employee to think like entrepreneurs?
I do. And it's the approach that anyone can do it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone wants to do it. And it's not easy. And just so everybody knows that just because Johnny was successful in being an entrepreneur, and I own a number of different businesses other than SimIS, all risks that I've taken on. But not only that, the approach to what we do in every single day-to-day life, you can't all be an entrepreneur, because what does entrepreneur mean? The willingness to assume risk with a number of attributes. And so I'm willing to give my employees, my leaders, my directors, the ability to be entrepreneurial in their approach, but they got to understand the risk associated with that. For me, starting a business, originally, it wasn't much of a calculated risk for me because I knew this is what I loved and this is what I wanted to do. But the other flip side to that was I had a phenomenal job at a really large company called General Dynamics, where I was moving up the ranks, and I had a great salary, great benefits, and I had someone who thought highly of me that said, "Well, Johnny, why are you here? You should be doing this on your own. You are a risk taker, entrepreneurial. You could be doing this on your own." And here I was, just completed a PhD, just had twin daughters, and the economy was in a recession. And I said, wow, what a great time. Let me start a business now. And man, what a risk that was. But like the question you asked, those are the types of risk I don't want for my employees. From I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my mortgage this month, kind of a deal. I think what I've created in SimIS and our other companies is the ability to take calculated risk in our business without the ramifications of starting a business, if you know what I mean.
If you happen to be watching this interview on YouTube, we appreciate you. Make sure that you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to make sure you don't miss another episode, and I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. I'd love to hear what else you need help with and challenges that you're facing as a leader. Back to the interview. Certainly know that the full aspects of being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. Else we'd all have our own individual businesses and it'd be full on kind of anarchy. But I really appreciate you sharing with us about what you see as leadership and culture in your fast growth. Is there anything that I might have left out in the questions that you feel like really moved the needle for growing a company fast?
Yeah, I think the important aspect of anything that you do in a successful business is what do you do in the community that you're in? Because guess what? Everybody says it takes knowledge. Well, it does. And in the future, you have to be involved in your community. You have to be involved in your local schools, your local universities. But not only that, you have to be able to support a number of different nonprofit and community service organizations. And I believe in our business, that's where we've been successful in working with our community leaders. But not only that, in our local schools, in our local programs, we do tons of internships. We reach out to the local high schools. We reach out to the robotics clubs, to the underserved areas and youth in the area. And that's extremely important, not only for the business and the community, but also our employees, for them to understand that, sure, we're a successful business, but we also want to share our wealth. We want to share our health. And we also want to educate and communicate our region and our communities.
So glad you added that, Johnny. I felt with some of the work that our company has done, being able to give back to the community and to nonprofits has been a really great kind of boost for the team. And for me personally as a leader, is just being able to give is someplace that I had looked to be for a long time. So thank you for being here on Growth Think Tank to share your wisdom about leadership and culture that drives fast growth companies. I really appreciate it.
All right, Gene, thank you.
Great interview there to talk about the importance of communication inside your team and as a leader. It's really critical for you to go beyond everyone's kind of feeling that they're pretty good at communication and really get specific about how you improve as an organization. With my teams, we're working on how do they improve listening. As leaders, how do we improve truly being present inside of a conversation instead of being distracted, even the slightest little bit? And those are some of the things that I do with my clients' teams. So where are you with those elements in communication? Do you wish your team had a higher level of communication? Well, if you want to have more information about that, make sure you go to genehammett.com/training. That training will take you directly into something I've put together to help you understand the 3 biggest mistakes that you as leaders are making and that you can actually fix. And when you do, your company has a chance to soar, grow fast, just like all of the interviews I've done today. Just go to genehammett.com/training. All right. That being said, thank you for tuning in here to today's episode. As always, lead with courage. I'll talk to you next time.